Hello everyone, I'm Surjit. I lead solutions development and delivery at Kiansa. In today's role play, I am in charge of demand planning. And as a demand planner, we have two goals. The first one is to develop an accurate and reliable demand forecast. And the second one is to make this forecast available to our supply side ahead of time so that they can respond efficiently and cost effectively. On the sales sides, we don't really want to miss out on any of the opportunities, but at the same time, we don't want to accumulate unnecessary inventory because we understand that costs the company. So a good demand planning process actually helps us to attain these two goals. So coming to the app that you are seeing now, that is our SNOP application. We follow a process that Erica was describing a little while ago. It's a monthly process. All the functions and departments, for example, sales, the distribution and inventory management, procurement, manufacturing, so they all use this application for the SNOP planning, right? And then though there are different functions and they're looking at data at their perspectives, it is also a unified connected application with its own workflows, with its versionings, its traceabilities that helps in collaboration. So I will take you through a quick tour of demand planning. Our demand planning process starts with a statistical forecast. So we use a statistical forecast as a baseline for demand plan. In our application, we have an AI-powered forecast engine which uses historical sales data to predict future sales using time series models. We'll come to it, but before that, like Erica was mentioning, we have to sometimes correct our actuals. And that is not corrected in the ERP system because that is not proper. We have to correct that in the planning system. And I'll explain to you some of the reasons why this is required. Let's give an example. So say that there are sales that were higher because of a promotions, right? Or because there was a social media campaign that went viral. It drove sales to abnormal levels, but what you don't anticipate to repeat, in normal terms. So what people can do here is they can actually go and you see that blue line called UV correction. So they could actually say that, well, the number that is there for that period is not reasonable. It is caused by certain events that are not likely to recur. So they could go and change it. And this is perfectly traceable. So that means you can always come back and see what was the number and what was corrected and who corrected it. So this traceability is maintained. Going back to our time series forecasting. So as I was saying, we use time series predictive models, and we use the corrected actuals for the inputs to the statistical forecasting. The forecast engine uses multiple algorithms, right? Like you could see a few there in the algorithms table below that it applies, and it tries to predict the future, a future which is basically actuals, but then it tries to forecast what is known from what is partly known. And then it tries to pick up the forecast or the algorithm which has the highest accuracy. And then the forecast that has the highest accuracy, the algorithm that has the highest accuracy is picked up as the baseline forecast, and that becomes an input to the sales planning process. Right. So this is in summary what we do in statistical forecasting. So coming to sales planning, here this is more of a human-oriented process. You definitely have intelligence provided by the system. The objective here is for the salespeople to update their forecast every month. So sales usually is reviewing their data by a product family at a customer and location levels, which they can select. And then based on that data, this template shows them information about what is the statistical forecast baseline, what is the account management forecast, what was the actuals performance so far. So these provide different guidance to planning. And in the end, they could actually revise the numbers because they are more aware of, say, the existing market conditions. They have visibility to customer orders. They are aware of the promotions that are planned. So based on that, they could actually override these numbers, and then they submit their forecast. So once all these forecasts are submitted, they often go through an approval process, and that then becomes an input to the consensus demand planning. So the goal of consensus demand planning is to review the sales forecast, actuals, and of course, to see whether they make sense, right? So the focus is mostly on the product family and the region levels, not so much on the customer. And here we look for products where the forecast were typically not accurate, where there is a lot of variability. And we try to question the assumptions of different sales forecasts. We try to understand the reason why something did not work, or what is the difficulty in getting to a right forecast or right forecast accuracy. So that is one of the goals that we try to filter out, the products and location combinations that have got very good forecast accuracy. We don't really have to take a look there, but we could definitely go and look at the ones that have bad accuracies. One other key feature over here is that you have scenario planning. So that's what is very prominent in this screen. So here, as you can see, we have scenarios A, B, and C. This is particularly useful when we have to look at a future which is not very clear, where there could be multiple possibilities emerging. So different scenarios can be created. You could make different assumptions. For example, you could have one scenario as what is your sales forecast. Then the other one, you could actually say it's an upside forecast. So you could actually increase the sales forecast by a bit of a percentage or by an absolute number. You could have another scenario, it's a downside forecast, where you could actually look at numbers if they are not that good. So now, when you have adjusted those numbers, you can compare the different numbers and scenarios side by side and look at them and try to understand what it means in terms of revenue, what it means in terms of cost of sales. And then you could evaluate the options and then pick up the ones that look to be most likely, right? So that is one thing which is very useful when to model something where you have uncertainties, where the baseline forecast or statistical forecast are not accurate, and you need a greater degree of collaboration and scenario planning to evaluate your options and move forward. So in the end of all this, we need a single consensus demand plan that is given to supply, because that is something that is a starting point for supply review.